Hey, what's up? My name is Justin. Welcome to 65 Drums, and these are my first impressions of the ATV aDrums line. Now, I got a chance to go try out this kit at their headquarters in California, and so I got a pretty good idea of whether or not it's worth buying, the pros and cons of all the components, and all that good stuff. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to give a quick disclaimer. Unfortunately, all of my playing footage, the audio got distorted, so I can't show it right here in this video because it doesn't sound that great. If you want to hear and see this kit in action, I really recommend this video right here from Drum Tech. I'll link it down in the the description below, and then also the little card on the screen right there. Now, let's start off with talking about the cymbals first, because it's one of the more unique aspects of this drum set. Now, starting off from the left and then going to the right, the hi-hats are a two-piece 14-inch design. The bottom plate is just a plastic shell, unfortunately. It doesn't really affect anything, but for $500, those hi-hats, I was expecting them to at least be made of rubber or something. But anyway, it's a bottom plate and then the top cymbal. And believe it or not, there's actually no moving components inside of this hi-hat. Most of the time with electronic hi-hats, they have some sort of bottom piece that has a moving component that basically tells the drum module how open or closed the hi-hat is. That's how it knows. With this hi-hat, it uses some sort of like electronic eye that can tell the difference between open, closed, and then all the variations in between. I didn't mess around with the settings or anything, but overall they worked pretty well with the 85 drum module, and ATV actually gave me a review unit, so I actually have been using it with the TD30 behind me right there, and they work very well with that as well. Now don't worry, I'll be doing a full in-depth review in like a month from now, so if you want to learn more about these hi-hats, I'll have a more in-depth video later on. So moving on to the next cymbal, all these drum sets come with at least one 16-inch crash cymbal. Pretty much the exact same thing as the hi-hats, very fun to play on, very well constructed. All these cymbals have like a bit of a tougher texture to them. They take a second to get used to if you're used to like a Roland or an Elisa cymbal, but very fun to play on, very high quality. Now all these cymbals also come with 3 zones. Now you don't have to use all 3 zones, but you can plug in 2 cables and use all of these as 3-zone cymbals. And they also have 360 triggering around the entire surface of the cymbal. If you really think about it, it's kind of ridiculous how most electronic cymbals, only half of the surface is actually playable and the other half is just there for looks. It doesn't really make any sense. For the hi-hats especially, I've found that this is more than just a nice to have feature. It's actually pretty darn important, because there have been many times when the hi-hats have spun away from me while I was playing, and I have to take away one hand to spin them back around just so I can finish the song. When they're 360 capable, you don't have to worry about that. They spin around all the time, just like acoustic cymbals, and it doesn't even matter. Moving on to the next cymbal, we have an 18-inch ride cymbal, which is pretty much about the optimum size for an electronic ride cymbal in my opinion. Very fun to play on. I like the way it's constructed, just like the crash cymbal. And then the last cymbal over there is obviously an add-on. That's a 17-inch China cymbal. As far as electronic China cymbals, there's not a ton of options out there on the market. Most people will buy this one from Trigera. It's about 14 inches across, but that really can't compare to a full 17-inch China cymbal like this one right here. It's really expensive, but if you want an electronic China cymbal, this is probably the best that you can get. Very fun to play on, very responsive. I like it quite a bit. Now, if you're wondering about the noise between this one and a Roland cymbal, I found that they're pretty much just equal. They sound slightly different from each other, but as far as like volume output, they're pretty much the same. Here's a quick example. Really, the only volume difference that I've noticed is that the bell zone of ATV cymbals tends to be a little bit quieter than the bell zone of Roland cymbals. But yeah, they're about the same. Now, the one last thing I need to mention about ATV cymbals, and this is a bit of a controversy that has come up, ATV cymbals can get little micro-dents in them. It doesn't affect the performance in any way, shape, or form. It's a cosmetic thing, and it's just because of the way the rubber, like the rubber they've chosen and stuff, it can get little micro-dents. I've actually had these happen to my ATV hi-hats behind me right there, as you can see from these photos. They're very, very faint, and really they don't affect anything, but I just want to let you know that they do exist, and that's something you need to know going in when you're, willing to spend thousands of dollars on a drum set. All right, so let's move on to the rest of the drums. As far as sizes go, we got a 13-inch snare, 13-inch floor tom, 10-inch high toms, and an 18-inch bass drum. The only size that I wish was a little bit different was the floor tom, because I feel like it should be a hair larger than the snare. So if it was like 14 inches across, I feel like that would have made all these sizes 100% perfect. But overall, everything feels very good. It doesn't take up a ton of space, but it also looks acoustic when you walk in and see it in the middle of a room. So I like the way all these drums look quite a bit. It's not like really fancy. It doesn't have like, mirror shell wraps or anything like that. It's just got a black set of shell wraps and some like wood grain accents on like the bass drum. Overall, a very nice look for this drum set. As far as mesh heads go, they've decided to go with 2-ply. They feel very good to play on, not quite as good as like a 3-ply Drum Tech Real Feel or Roland 3-ply mesh head, but they feel about the same as like a regular Roland 2-ply mesh head, better than Elise's mesh head. So overall, good choice, but I do wish they'd gone with 3-ply in retrospect. Now, as far as the internals of these guys, they're doing something pretty darn unique. They've got 3 different trigger cones positioned in like a triangle formation to eliminate hot spotting. Now, this is interesting because it totally accomplishes that goal. When you're playing in the center of these drums, you're not getting any hot spotting whatsoever. But if you hit any one of those 3 points, you get little mini half hot spots. So you're sort of fixing the problem and increasing the problem at the same time. But honestly, if you're going to play in the center of the drum like any normal drummer, you're not going to experience any hot spotting at all. And I feel like that's what drummers really want. I like their whole trigger design right here. So the one thing that jumps out at you when you're looking at the snare is obviously that secondary little rim right there. That's just for playing cross stick. Obviously, when you want to play rim shots, you just hit the regular rim. For cross stick, they have that there just so the drum module knows 100% the difference between rim shot and side stick. So when I was testing it, I noticed that I had to hit pretty hard on that little block of wood in order to get it to trigger, but it did work. I probably should have tried to increase the sensitivity or something in the settings, but overall, it does work. Now, what makes this feature unique isn't the fact that it's a secondary removable extra rim, because we've actually seen this from other companies. Even Go eDrum has it, but it uses an extra cable that plugs into the drum module. That's what usually companies do. What they've done here is there's no cables, no wiring. There's actually some sort of sensor inside of the snare that can tell the difference between you hitting the snare and between you hitting the little extra piece of wood. So that's pretty unique. There's no wires, no messy cables or anything. And if you decide to use this with a Roland drum module, unfortunately, this extra rim isn't compatible. You'll just use it as like a regular Roland snare. You'll have to press the X stick button on your Roland drum module like usual to switch between rim shot and cross stick. Okay, so moving on to the kick drum, we have this 18-inch design, and it's very fun to play on. It's got a very solid feel to it. And this is interesting because sometimes with a 2-ply mesh head, when you stretch that across like an 18-inch or a 22-inch surface, sometimes your kick drum beater will sort of sink into the mesh and make it feel a little bit unnatural. But with whatever kind of mesh head material that they've used here, and with whatever kind of foam that they have behind the mesh head, it just feels very solid to play on, and I like it quite a bit. I know this is all a matter of opinion, but I actually like the feel of this kick drum versus the Roland 18-inch kick drum that they have on their TD25KVX. Okay, so moving on to the drum module, this is the ATV 85. And the coolest thing about this drum module is the fact that they don't force you to buy it. You can actually buy a version of this drum set with or without it. You can buy just the shell, cymbal pack, and hardware pack, and then go buy like a Pearl Mimic Pro, a TD50, a TD17. You could buy an Elisa Strike drum module. All that will work with this shell and cymbal pack. But for the sake of the video, let's just say you buy the drum set with the module. What are you getting into? The first thing you need to know about this drum module is that it's very dead simple. They basically want you to turn on the drum module and start playing. That's it. They give you like 5 or so kits inside of the drum module. You can't really tune the sounds, EQ the sounds, compress the sounds. There's no reverb or virtual mic placement or anything. They made this drum module in backlash to the overly complex drum modules that some companies make. And I know there's a case to be made for simplicity, but I feel like they made it a little bit too simple. Now, while you can't really do much to affect the sounds inside of the drum module, the sound quality of those sounds, they're very good. They tend to be more like the raw, natural acoustic sounds, and they only give you 5. That's the really unfortunate thing about this drum module, aside from the fact that you can't edit the sounds in any way, shape, or form. They only give you like 5, and then you got to go to their website and then go buy a $5 snare here, a $7 ride cymbal over here, and slowly build out the drum module. You're basically, experiencing microtransaction city whenever you go to their website. They do have some free sounds, but most of them do cost money. And that's kind of unfortunate because a $1,000 drum module should have more than 5 kits inside of the drum module. That's just my opinion. But again, as far as the internal sounds go, I do like them quite a bit. But if you're looking more for like the metal sounds and the hard rock sounds or like EDM sounds, this isn't the drum module for you. And again, I can't really be mad at the drum module though, because they've decided to go in a direction and they're not forcing you to buy the drum module. If you don't like the module, just buy the kit without the drum module and you're good to go. let's move on to the next thing, the 4 different variations of this drum set. You've got one core kit right here, but you have different options. So as you can see, it ranges from about $2,500 to like $4,300, I believe. The 2 cheapest kits in this line, they don't come with the drum module. You just buy whatever module you want to go along with it. The 2 more expensive versions, they do come with the drum module. If you buy the module separately, it's like $1,100 or so, and that's why the price jump is right there. The difference between the 2 kits in each one of those camps is that you can buy a version that gives you an extra tom and an extra crash cymbal, or you can buy a version that's just a little bit, smaller. I should probably also mention that it doesn't come with a kick drum pedal or a hi-hat stand, but it does come with the crash cymbal stands and the snare stand and the mounts so you can mount the toms to those crash cymbal stands. Okay, so now it's time to talk about competition. What other drum sets are out there for around this $4,000, $3,000 price point? The main competition is probably the Roland TD25KVX, which I've already done a full video on if you want to learn more of the specifics and hear it in action, and then also the brand new Pearl Emerge line. Let's start off by comparing this drum set to the TD25KVX. I got a chance to play it, and again, go watch the video if you want to learn more info. It's a really nice drum set. It feels very fun to play on. You have an 18-inch bass drum just like this ATV kit right here, but you don't really get actual shell sizes. With this one, you get a 12-inch snare versus a 13-inch snare on the ATV set. You get 10-inch toms all the way around instead of 10-inch high toms with actual shells and a 13-inch floor tom like ATV gives you. You get a 13-inch ride cymbal, and meanwhile the ATV kit gives you a full 18-inch ride cymbal. So as far as sizes go, it's not quite as large. As an overall package, this thing is incredibly fun to play on and it looks cool, but it's not really worth $4,000. It's got a 13-inch ride cymbal and a TD25 drum module. If it was like $3,000 or $3,500, it would be well priced, but as of right now, I feel like for the price range, ATV just offers you a better drum set. So moving on to the next matchup, we have the Pearl Emerge drum set that just came out versus the ATV drum set. Now, unfortunately, I haven't gotten a chance to play this one for myself, but as far as sizes go, they're really darn similar to the ATV kit. You get an 18-inch bass drum, 18-inch ride cymbal, 14-inch hi-hats, 15-inch crash cymbal, 14-inch snare, and then you get a 10, 12, and 14-inch set of toms. So of course, Pearl is making a lot of bold claims about how awesome this drum set is in all of their advertising, and it may be true or maybe not. I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, but I feel like this matchup is a little bit closer to the ATV drum set. But just looking at both of these on paper, I would still probably take the ATV drum set just because I've played it, I know it's really good, and the sizes and the way it looks a little bit more like an acoustic drum set, and that's more of the aesthetic that I'm going towards. So taking a step back and looking at the ATV kit overall, what are the pros and cons? I feel like the pros are that the sizes are all really good. It feels very fun to play on. The cymbals are all very high quality. You can buy this at different price points. You can buy it without the drum module and then pick whatever you want to go along with it. So you could sort of tailor the price. You could spend $3,000 on this by buying like a used TD15 drum module with it, or you can spend an extra $2,000 and buy a Pearl Mimic Pro. So the price of the drum set just depends on what module you decide to go along with it. So I like all that. As far as cons go, I wish that they were using 3-ply mesh heads. I wish that the cymbals didn't get a little micro-dents in them. And I also wish that they were using a slightly larger floor tom, a 14-inch floor tom instead of a 13-inch floor tom. So as an overall package, I like this drum set quite a bit. The components are great, I like playing it, and it's just worth the money. For $2,500, you're getting a lot of good components, and if you already own a drum module, you don't have to spend any more money. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you've ever played one of these drum sets, or if you own an ATV drum set, or a snare, or a cymbal, leave a little mini review down in the comments below. I'm really interested to read your thoughts as an owner. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you in a few.